Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do the reading for the new moon that has taken place earlier today on the 20th of February at 7:06 this morning in the UK. It will be different in other places of the planet, so check out for yourselves where that is likely to be. So or what time that's likely to be, should I say. I just want to say a big thank you as well to those of you who have viewed my last video. I do really appreciate you taking the time to do that, and to those of you who subscribed after watching my last video as well, thank you very much. Really nice to have you here on my channel, even though YouTube has also removed 2 people as well, so I'm back to the same amount, but I do know that 2 people did actually subscribe after that video, so if you do get to watch this one, thank you. Okay, so let's get into the energy of this. We're dealing with a mutable moon because the moon is in Pisces, which is mutable energy, which means that everything's in fluctuation, nothing is grounded, nothing is solid, everything is open to change. And it's at the very beginning of Pisces that this new moon is taking place as well. New moon energy for Pisces is very creative, very contemplatory, very intuitive, very psychic energies could be very much highlighted at this time as well. So here it says meditate and contemplate. And lastly, the new moon itself is always about a new start and a new beginning. So I'm going to pull a card to see what the overall energy is. So the new moon itself is taking place at the very, very early stages of Pisces, as I was saying, the 0, 1, 22 degrees of Pisces, and it's in immutable energies, and because it's at the very early stages of Pisces, it is also affecting Aquarius behind it as well. So the energy is kind of going forwards into the Piscean energy, but it's also going back the way as well into the Aquarian energy. So the fixed signs are also being affected here, as well as the mutable energies. So if you have anything within those degrees of the 26 degrees of Aquarius up to the 6 degrees of Pisces, 5-6 degrees of Pisces, you're going to feel this new moon energy the strongest here. And also the sextile energies here, which is Taurus, again a fixed sign, so the fixed signs are already going to be affected in the later degrees of the fixed sign energy, which is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius. And of course the very early degrees again of Taurus and Capricorn. No, sorry, not Capricorn, of Taurus and Sagittarius are going to be feeling this as well. So again, that's the fixed and the mutable energy there. As the sun and the moon are meeting at that very early site of Pisces. So don't know why we're not getting a card at the moment. Don't know what's happening there. Can we have a card, please, for the overall energies for the... Okay, there we go. We got 2 cards again. So we have Palhik Mana, which is medicine of the butterfly Kachina energy, and I have used these cards before. And also Pacha Kamak, which is nourishment of the soul, which is very interesting. That is very kind of Piscean energy, in fact. The nourishment of the soul energy, the Pisces being very much about the soul, deep subconscious energy. So we're dealing with card number 6. Which is Medicine of the Butterfly Kachina. So the spiritual guidance here is there are moments when even those of us with great courage feel tested beyond our faith. Again, very Piscean. Doubt, darkness and despair can creep into our minds and lash our hearts with fear. There may seem to be a good reason for our pain, the loss of a loved one, a cherished hope dashed, disturbing human behaviour, the state of the environment, or some other unexpected and painful shock. There may be no particular reason for it, and yet we are somehow gripped by the feelings of anxiety or despair that we cannot resolve no matter how hard we try. And this is very appropriate, because one of the only planets making any connection to this new moon is actually Saturn. And Saturn is very much the hard, harsh taskmaster. And Saturn can also bring up a lot of fear, it's restriction. Yeah, kind of despair as well. But Saturn at this time is still in Aquarius, is in the very last stages of Aquarius. He's about to move into Pisces. But yeah, apart from being sextile with the North and the South node, Saturn is the only planet that the Sun and the Moon at this time are actually connected with. So it's really highlighting that Saturn energy, particularly in Aquarius, because Aquarius is about the people. So it's really kind of highlighting the restrictive, kind of controlling, kind of, if you think of that top pyramidal kind of structure, because Saturn is all about structure, like controlling from the top down. So this seems quite appropriate at this time to me. It says, in the traditions of the Pueblo peoples, including the Hopi and Zuni, Kachina are beings from the spirit world that spend some part of the year living within the community. When revered, they can bestow healing and protection. Palhik Mana is the butterfly maiden, embroidered in sacred dance during a Hopi tradition. Sorry, embroidered, I don't know where that came from. Embodied in sacred dance during a Hopi tradition, honouring girls, the bearers of creative feminine promise. It is a very beautiful feminine looking card as well. The healing of the oracle of the butterfly Kachina comes to you now to alleviate your suffering, to remind you that everything you have gone through has been part of what has made you strong, compassionate and wise. Again, all very Piscean kind of energies, compassion, wisdom, and also suffering is another Saturn energy. Saturn tends to make us suffer. Hard taskmaster that he is. So when all seems lost, perhaps especially then, our souls needs the gift of seeing the light, love and wisdom of the divine at work behind all things at all times. Very Piscean again, always reaching out to us and offering love. The soul needs faith and hope like the body needs air to breathe. Faith keeps the soul alive and well. Yeah, very, very Piscean. You do not have to regret anything that has happened. You do not have to judge yourself or any other or wish that things had been different. You have not missed out. You have not messed up. You have been learning and growing. Again, Saturn energy. What is required from you now is a willingness to let the past fall away. because the person you once were no longer exists. You may not fully realise it yet. Like a butterfly trying to crawl on the ground, like a caterpillar, you may mourn the loss of your caterpillar ways. Yet if you take a moment to witness yourself anew, you'll realise you are not the person from 2 years or 10 years ago. You can then open to the gifts that the oracle of the butterfly Kachina is bringing to you. Now, well-being, new life, vibrancy, freedom and happiness. If you have been working hard on an issue, on yourself or a cause in the world, and it seems to be going nowhere, you are reminded that in the divine alchemy of transformation, things sometimes appear to be going backwards as they move forward. It is the way of things. After summer there is autumn and then winter, all of which indicate progress toward the next spring. If you didn't understand the creative purpose and regenerative nature of the seasons, you might be frightened by the winter, concerned that it signified the world was ending. With knowledge of the sacred feminine wisdom of the seasons, you are not afraid of winter. You see it as an essential part of life. You may even learn to nurture and restore yourself during that time, gaining conscious benefit and appreciation for it. If you feel you are in a spiritual or emotional winter in your life, have hope. The soul unfolds according to seasons, just as nature does. Let your heart and mind rest in trust that life is growing your soul into its beautiful fulfillment. So the healing process here is butterfly takes us out of seriousness and into childlike joy. Is there something that you used to love to do as a child? Is there some activity that makes you feel healthily childlike? Perhaps laughing at funny animal videos or going for a walk in nature? Colouring in or pulling a hula hoop out of the back of the wardrobe? Playing drums on the pots and pans, singing and dancing in your lounge room? Take time to be with your inner child self and be entirely engaged in the present moment. When you are ready, say this prayer aloud. I give thanks for the sacred soul medicine of the butterfly, the dancer, the giver of life and positive energies. I honour all that I have been through, for it has brought me to this moment. Now I am strong, wise, compassionate and empowered. I accept life and I am ready for the rebirth that is happening now in my soul and in the world. May divine love support successful transitions for our world. May all beings move into love, freedom and peace and happiness. I embrace this moment, so be it. Another interesting thing about this as well is that it's the 12th house energy that we are dealing with here. So the new moon in Pisces is taking place in the 12th house, and the 12th house is all about endings. It's the final house before we move into the first house of Aries, where we have the fresh start and the fresh beginning. So endings are coming, endings are happening. Saturn is another interesting planet for that as well, because he himself is about to leave the sign of Aquarius, as I was saying, and move into the sign of Pisces. So, and all the kind of structures and things that have been built up over these past 2 years when Saturn has been in Pisces, where he's been laying down his kind of rules and laws, or rules and I don't like to call them laws so much, but regulations, shall we say, of how life is going to be for us, because Aquarius is all about the people. And as he's reaching that final kind of stage of Aquarius, we're seeing more and more about how we're going to be pushed into these kind of like smaller living spaces, 15-minute cities, etc., etc. This is all very Saturn in Aquarius. And the thing is, when he moves into Pisces, all of that structure that he's trying to put down in Aquarius is not going to continue, because you can't really have structure in an ocean. and Pisces is an ocean. I mean, one of the words that is the strongest word for Piscean energy and Neptune energy, which is the ruler of Pisces, is that nebulousness, that kind of like the unknown. So Saturn moving into Pisces is going to make a huge difference to where we are right now. And also as Pluto moves into Aquarius, Pluto is also going to kind of dig up all of the structural, because that's what Pluto does. Pluto buries down deep into the foundations and the very roots of things. And if it's not right, if it's not as it should be, and I find it interesting that Pluto is kind of following behind Saturn, so it's almost like Pluto is going to take apart and remove all of the stuff that Saturn, with his kind of like need for structure, and I think Saturn is a very square energy, so it's that kind of structure and keeping everything contained, and even if it is kind of done for our own safety, it's that you can't have life, you can't contain life in just these kind of small blocks of areas. It's just not practical or diverse or anything. So it's like Pluto is going to remove all of the stuff that Saturn has been putting down for the last 2 years. And this Saturn conjunct the new moon and the sun, because Saturn and the sun have been conjunct for quite some time now. In fact, Saturn, I've got it written down here somewhere. Saturn has been conjunct the sun since the 6th of February. So that conjunction has been ongoing, which is why I think we've really felt this kind of push towards, like I was saying, this kind of idea of constriction and restriction more so than ever. And another interesting thing about this as well is that Saturn has actually been out of the picture, as in he's not really been involved in any of the full moons or the new moons since the beginning of the year. So this is the first time that Saturn is really making any major connection during a full or a new moon. In fact, I don't think Saturn's really been connecting with much at all for the last month or so. So it's almost like he's coming back in kind of like coming back with a vengeance in a way, coming back to kind of really try and solidify things. But like I said, once he moves out of that that space, he's going to be moving into the 29 degrees as well of Aquarius, and that 29 degree, the anaretic point of any sign, is that crucial energy. And at the same time, we also have Pluto moving into 29 degrees as well. So Pluto moved into 29 degrees on the 11th of February. So at the moment, Pluto is at 29 degrees and 15 minutes of Capricorn. So he's at the very, very end of all that structural Capricorn Saturn energy, because Saturn rules Capricorn. So he is bringing all of it down, all that structure, all of the governmental and kind of what's the words I'm looking for? So Capricorn basically is very structural in itself, and Saturn really, it's that kind of conformist energy in many ways, which is another thing with Saturn moving through Aquarius as well. It's kind of trying to make us all conform, that hive mind energy, to being the same, acting the same, thinking the same. And one of the ways that the powers that think they be are trying to do this is through the technology of the Aquarian mind, shall we say. So so we have some very interesting energies happening here. So apart from, like I was saying, apart from the Saturn and the North and South Node, which is interesting in itself as well, because that's the past and the future energies that we're dealing with there as well. So, but that's a sextile energy, so it's a kind of helpful energy for us. It's helping us to get to the right place. It's helping us to leave the past behind and move forward into that more self-worth energy of the North Node in Taurus, into a better place, and to leave behind all that Scorpio energy of kind of secrecy and lies and power, that kind of energy that's like power amongst the few, shall we say, rather than power of the people. So it's kind of saying again, it's about choice. I feel like, you know, you choose where you want to be. Where do you want to stand in this new world that is being created at this time? Are you going to stick with the old ways and the ways that have been there for centuries now and have built up over the centuries, or are we going to move into this more freedom oriented with Uranus in Taurus? It's very much about freedom at this time. And Uranus is actually making some interesting connection, or a interesting connection himself. He is connecting with Mercury, and Mercury is in Aquarius, and Mercury is like the lower energy of Uranus. So Mercury rules the mind, the thinking mind, the day-to-day mind, the kind of getting into your car and just kind of like going into autopilot kind of mode. I like to see it or think of it as like how I suppose the Buddhists see it, Tibetan Buddhists call it the kind of monkey mind, like that kind of monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, whereas the Uranus mind is the higher mind, it's the collective consciousness mind. But they are at this time square as well, so there's a bit of a challenge going on between these two energies at this time, with the Mercury energy in Aquarius. Aquarius again being about the people, but also being about it's like if you think of Saturn as the structure of something, Aquarius is like the inner workings of things. So to me, it's kind of, I kind of see it as the DNA of something, the cellular level of something, like the cogs in a clock. It's like you've got the structure, you've got the outside structure of that clock, but what makes that clock actually run and work are all those little wheels, all those little cogs, and all coming together, they make something move. And it's very similar, that's very similar kind of Aquarian energy. Also, of course, we've got all of this at this time. There's a big thing out there about the UFOs and the aliens and all these balloons that are being shot out the sky, or UAPs, or whatever they prefer to call them these days. So again, that's very Aquarian, especially as Pluto is going to move into that energy as well. So the Pisces energy, at the one end of Pisces we have this new moon happening, and at the other end of Pisces we have this Neptune at 24 degrees, who is the ruler of the Piscean energy. But we also have Venus as well. So Venus is at the very, very end. She's at the 29 mark as well. So there's quite a few energies that are kind of moving, although Venus moves quite quickly. But there's a few energies that are shifting and changing. So Venus is about to move into Aries, which she will be doing later today, if she hasn't done already. But she moves into Aries, and she will immediately, pardon me, sorry, make connections with Manwi, who is at 026 of Aries. So he's recently come back out of the Piscean energy. Manway is very, very slow moving. He's connected to the Elven King, and he's a very Jupiterian type of energy as well. So very similar kind of vibes to Jupiter, searching for truth, freedom, expansion on things, like seeing the good in all, that kind of energy. And Venus and Manway are going to come together at that very beginning point of Aries. So that's very interesting as well, because Venus is activating the axis Mundi point of the wheel. So the axis Mundi point is the very start, it's the 0 degree point of Aries, which means that the cardinal signs as well are going to be affected by this. So that's the Aries Libra energy and the Cancerian and Capricorn energy as well. So all the cardinal signs on that cross are going to be connected with this activation. And we all, because it's an axis Mundi point, it's the world point, if you like, we will all feel it and experience it and see things playing out on a world level, on a world stage. It's like the energies themselves will become very clear on the world stage. And so I see this as a very, very positive energy, because Venus is a very positive planet, very positive planet. She's all about beauty and love, relationships. And I mean, in Pisces, she's just been very, it's like that kind of oozing kind of geniality and like less conflict and things running smoothly in Pisces. Like relationships tend to be very smooth and easygoing, because Venus gets on really well with Pisces energy. She's just coming out of a conjunction with Neptune as well, so that's also been very dreamy, creative. Dreams may well have been very highlighted at this time. They could have been quite crazy kind of dreams as well. Very deep dreams, meaningful dreams. Again, intuition could really be high at this time, because we've got Sun, Moon at the beginning of Pisces and Neptune and Venus at the end of Pisces. So there could be this really deep kind of like shifting of knowingness happening on the planet at this time as well. I tend to think of it as like, we know what we know. We may not know why or how, but we just know it. It's like a deep knowing, like a real kind of entrenched knowing that you can't explain and you can't kind of like put your finger on it, but it's that intuition that tells you when something's not right or when something is as it should be. And I also think that it's kind of really helping with this whole awakening as well that Uranus is doing at this time in Taurus as well. The Great Awakener there with this Mercury energy as well, kind of really lifting the thinking, if you like, into another realm, another level of understanding and clarity and seeing things a lot clearer. Uranus, of course, is also the rule of electricity and shocks and like shocking awakenings. Sometimes the only way we can wake up to something is through the shock of something. Uranus is also to do with the third eye. It is the ruler of Aquarius. So it's also to do with Kundalini energy as well. But I also feel that it is very, like at this time, there's like an awareness, shall we say, of when we're not being given the truth about something or being told something like that we know, we can feel it, we can sense it. Again, we might override it, or some of us might override it because the conditioning is still there to accept what we're told through certain means. Again, Aquarius energy is very much related to internet, also media as well. But also Mars is also making a very interesting trine with this Mercury energy at this time as well. So Mars is really kind of firing that all up. Mars in Gemini, the curiosity, the needing to know, the wanting to know. So it's like going into something with a kind of childlike curiosity as well. But I also feel there's this energy of no longer just accepting, no longer being just, oh, that's how it is. It's like, well, there has to be more to that. There has to be a reason as to why. Because Mars in Gemini, Gemini is all about curiosity. It's that very early stage of learning things, like educational wise, going to school. It governs things like early education. But it's also very questioning. And Mercury, of course, is the ruler of Gemini, that very quick thinking. So it's like the mind is being really kind of activated at this time. From both from both Uranus and Mars as well. So a lot of kind of shocking revelations, possibly. Shocking awakenings. Again, I just feel that people aren't going to be so easily sucked into things as they might have been in the past. And also that the more we're kind of tried to be forced down a certain pathway, the more with this new moon at the very beginning of Pisces, the more we're going to want to go into something deeper, or the more we're going to trust our own intuition rather than trust other people's version of something. And I think that's quite a big process. It's a big step for people to take, because we've been so conditioned into accepting what we're told or what we read somewhere, all other people's opinions and ideas. We also have a black moon Lilith now in Leo at about 4 degrees, still opposing the energy with Pluto. So there's still a lot of mystery, the darker, seedier side of life, the power challenges. Again, because it's in Capricorn, it is to do with the with those impositions of power, those at the very top of power. And Leo, of course, is those who like to be in the spotlight. It's fame, fortune, wanting to be seen. Leo, kind of like the look at me energy. And of course, it's also, Leo is also royalty as well. And interestingly, we are hearing, I don't know if anyone's heard about the South Park thing that's just recently been put out, which apparently has completely destroyed destroyed the Harry and Meghan kind of facade of privacy and that kind of thing. So, and also I just heard recently that Prince Andrew, I don't know if he's still called Prince Andrew or just Andrew, is also out there shouting out on the front page about how he may lose his house. So these kind of things are what we are going to experience with Black Moon Lilith moving through the sign of Leo. I feel as though it's going to kind of, because Black Moon Lilith is the kind of dirty, seedy underbelly of things. She kind of brings the worst of that particular sign that she's going through up to the surface. And there's a lot of that happening at the moment as well, because we've also got this energy of Jupiter who's expanding on this Mercury energy as well over here. But Jupiter is also opposing Make in Libra. Make is the opposite energy of Saturn. It's like where Saturn is kind of human rules and law. I've spoken about Make before. Make is that kind of like universal, kind of karmic, above the human idea of like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth kind of thing. Make is much more about it. It's very slow. It's like how, again, there's kind of slow moving laws, but they're the laws that have been written in place for you, like by the universe itself, and you can't kind of ignore them. You can bypass them for a certain amount of time, I would say, but I would say like on a bigger scale, on a universal, like on a karmic history scale, we are kind of dealing with that kind of energy, particularly in Libra. We're dealing with like the law, fairness, harmony. Libra doesn't like disharmony. It's ruled by Venus. Venus doesn't like disharmony. Make is also opposing Jupiter, and Jupiter is also, and it's also Make is also opposing, because Jupiter is also conjunct Salacia still as well, and she's at 7 degrees 13 of Aries. Again, we've still got quite a lot of energy in Aries. Juno is also in Aries as well, and of course we've also got Eris at the other end of Aries as well. So Eris is at 24 degrees of Aries. So she's also going to be sextile this Saturn energy as well. So very disruptive energy, very kind of like wanting to shake things up, wanting to change things, wanting to bring down, in many ways, again, bring down that structure that is all around us, even if we're not aware of it. It's there. It's like our day-to-day life is structured by, not just by the sun coming up and the sun going down, but by all these human ideas of how life should be. And it's kind of like calling for us to break out of this these prisons in many ways, because Saturn can also kind of represent prison energy. And Eris is that feisty, non-conformist, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think, my brain's going dead now. But she's the activist. The activist, she's the one who kind of like points out that things aren't as they appear, or aren't as good as you might think they are. So she's also, like I say, sextile with Saturn as well at this time. What else do we have here? We also have Pholus, who's at 8 degrees of Capricorn now. Pholus is that energy of, like, to do with toxic poisons, bio labs, working on things that are best not to be worked on, that kind of energy. He himself was a centaur who died by getting stabbed by the blood of the Medusa, the Gorgon, the snake-headed Gorgon. And Pholus is also square Jupiter and Celestia as well, so he's also square Make at this time, and we are seeing a lot of, and in fact Pholus, that is creating a T-square between these energies. And Pholus is once again the very kind of like focus point of that energy, which means that that is where, like, because you got Jupiter and Celestia. Celestia is an energy of bringing things up from the depth of the ocean, so like the new moon in Pisces, that bringing things up from the depth. Celestia is bringing it into the light, and Jupiter is kind of expanding on it as a truth. It's like seeking the truth out of all the murk and the dirt and the grime and the lies and the deceit and the which again is Piscean energy. And at the very beginning of Pisces energy with this new moon, that could also be very strong energy at this time, because the sun and the moon have only just moved into the Pisces energy, so they're not kind of like it's like early days. It's like that energy isn't really what's the word, settled in as such at the moment. It's like the sun has literally only just moved into Pisces season, so he's still got a way to go before he kind of feels comfortable. And so the early stages of any sign are a bit like the early parts of childhood. It's the baby energy. It's the kind of learning of something. But it could also be the more like lower vibrational energies of that as well, because it hasn't matured enough to get into the more kind of the higher consciousness energy. So it could also bring up things like victimhood, for instance, which is a very Piscean energy, feeling like we're all victims and that we don't have a say in the outcome of our lives, feeling that there's no point, loss of faith, all that kind of energy. But I feel as though with these other planets making these connections, like with Mars and Mercury, for instance, and Uranus and Mercury, making these connections, that there's a lot of fire and kind of force behind it somehow. There's a lot of kind of, how can I put it, okay, so it's like it's not going to last long, even if we are in that energy for a while, and if we sit in that energy for a while, it's not going to be for long. It's like we're going to get ourselves out of that head state or that mind state and move into something a lot stronger and more powerful. Because we also have Characlo there as well. But going back to this in Aquarius, going back to this Pholus energy, as I was saying, we are going to be seeing a lot of talk around that whole medical procedure coming out more and more over 2023 into 2024 as well. There's going to be, I like to think of it kind of like karmic retribution in many ways. And it will be done through the law courts, which I think is what Make is there to do as well. Like Make opposing this Aries, Jupiter, Cilicia energy, also with Chiron there as well, because Chiron's at 13 degrees. So they're also going to get closer to the Chiron energy, because Chiron takes quite some time to move. Mind you, so does Make, but Jupiter will be meeting up with Chiron fairly soon, which again will kind of bring this healing aspect up as well, and make people very aware of what it is that they need to be healing, and the cause, shall we say, of why people are not as fit and healthy as they could be. And of course we've got the full moon coming up again in Virgo, which is the opposite of the Piscean energy. Virgo very much about kind of diving into the depth of something, into the kind of analytics of something, analysing things, very kind of down into the details, right into the very details. So that could also have a big effect on this at this time as well. But this T-square with Pholos is going to have an effect. It's going to play a part over these coming months, because it's quite a powerful energy, and it's a very important subject as well. It's like we can't just sweep it away under the carpet and just pretend that it never happened, as much as that's kind of been spoken about. We also have Orcus as well, which is that energy of the oath taker. And these are all kind of like behind the scene planets, or energies as I like to call them, because they're not your major energies, they're not your major planets that we're dealing with here. So there, for me, I see them more as being on a kind of 5D level, so they're beyond our physical domain, but they still have an effect on our physical domain. It's just that we're not so aware of those energies. But at this time we also have Orcus at 14 degrees 30 in Virgo, and he's also trine Uranus. And there's a major kind of thing about oaths at this time that's taking place as well, particularly in America, where they're really questioning, like, you know, the whole idea of, like, if you take an oath, that should be your word, you should stick to that oath. And that was Orcus' thing as well. Like, if oath keeper broke their oath, he would drag them down into the depths of the underworld, and he would keep them there until they saw the error of their ways before he would let them back out. And that was how important an oath was to these people, to the ancients. If you gave your word, then that meant everything. It was everything. You didn't break your word unless you were a criminal or a slime ball, or like you didn't care. So in which case, why were you doing it in the first place? Why were you in that position if you were going to break your oath? So there's kind of the same kind of energy around this at this time as well, particularly with Uranus there as well, because Uranus is kind of really bringing out some shocking awakenings of things like the the communication domain, shall we say. Again, very Mercury, Uranus energy. So you've got Mercury square to Uranus, and Uranus is trining Orcus as well. So it's all connected. It's kind of like everything is connected that we're seeing within the communication domain, the big social media companies. All of those kind of things are being kind of questioned on a really, really deep level now, particularly now that we've got things like Twitter being opened back up again, and I do believe that the CEO of YouTube has recently stepped down as well. So as soon as the word subpoena was mentioned, she was out the door. So so all of these kind of energies are having an effect. It's just that people aren't really aware of the fact that those energies are there and able to relate them to what's actually happening on our planet. So this is why I like to go into more depth of these kind of energies. So we also have Sedna at 28 degrees of Taurus. So Sedna is making a trine with Pluto at this time. Both very mysterious kind of energies here. Also sextile with Venus. Pluto is sextile with Venus. Yeah, and Sedna is also sextile with Venus as well. So the thing about Sedna is she's very transformative. I mean, Pluto is very transformative energy as well. But on some level, Pluto always works through adversity, very similar to Saturn. I suppose you could say the same about Sedna's ordeal as well, because Sedna was kind of betrayed by her father, and it was only through that process of her falling into the water and kind of drowning that she kind of remembered that she was part of everything. So she became the goddess of the oceans and all of the living animals within the oceans. So there is a very transformational kind of story there as well, on a very, very, very deep level, because Sedna takes over 3,000 years, I think it is, to go around our sun. It's a very, very slow process. It might even be longer than that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that it's a very slow moving energy. And she's still at the very last degrees of Taurus. So again, she's helping to kind of transform that very the very fixed earth energy, if you like, because Taurus is very fixed earth and it doesn't like change. It's a kind of energy that wants to know what's what and keep things as they are because it makes sense. It's like all these kind of new ideas and things that are not easily accepted by the Taurus energy. And with Uranus there as well, there's a lot of changes going on earth-wise, earth-shifting energy. And Sedna is part of that earth-shifting energy as well. She's part of that transformation that's taking place on a very deep level, which is why we're seeing a lot more volcanoes and earthquakes and a lot of disruptive kind of energies literally happening through the planet and on the planet. So what else is there? All the planets are moving forward at this time, so the energy is all moving we're in forward motion, but we are still, like, Mars is still in shadow, and he's not going to be coming out of his shadow until March the 16th, when he gets to that 25 degrees 36 minutes. So he's still got a little bit of a way to go. He's got another 10 degrees there. Uranus is also still in shadow, and he's not going to come out of his shadow until the 9th of May, when he gets to that 18 degrees 56 minutes. He's going to be stationing there, which is bang on my sun. Oh, the joy. And then Neptune is also in shadow at 25 degrees 26 of her energy. She's not coming, or his energy should I say, he's not coming out until March the 24th as well. So still a bit of time before Neptune comes out of shadow. But interestingly, I've realised that there's a couple of planets here that never actually, it's actually Neptune and Pluto that never come out of shadow. I know it sounds very, very bizarre, but they always seem to, because the previous shadow, stick with me on this because this could get confusing, so please don't turn off. The previous shadow of Neptune in 2022 was March the 24th at 25 degrees 26. Now it's coming out of shadow March the 24th of 2024 at 25 degrees and 26. So is that the right one? I probably made a mistake there after I've said all that. Yeah. No, that is what's happening. At 25 degrees 26 on March the 24th, Neptune will be coming out of the shadow that he's been in. And at this time, he's at 24 degrees and 14. But Neptune will be entering his shadow on March the 10th. Before he goes back into his retrograde, which he'll be doing in June. So he's going to, when he gets to 24 degrees and 53 on March the 10th, he will be entering into the shadow of the upcoming retrograde. And he will still be in shadow from his previous retrograde, as he doesn't come out of that until March the 24th. So there is this crossover period where he doesn't come out of shadow, which could be why the ancients saw both Neptune and Pluto as very kind of mysterious and kind of like nebulous energies in some ways, particularly Neptune. So I just find that interesting, and I just think that maybe it would be worth keeping an eye on that period of time between the March the 24th or March the 10th. Yeah, March the 10th and March the 24th, when he comes out of, or goes into his new shadow before he comes out of his other shadow. So it's like a double layer of shadow. And I just think it'd be interesting to see what happens within that period of time. And Pluto will be doing the same thing as well, because Pluto came out of his shadow Pluto came out of his shadow on January the 29th at 28 degrees 35. But he went into his shadow on January the 8th, 2023. So again, there's that crossover period, which I just think is rather intriguing. So, yes, what have we got? We've got Pluto going into retrograde as well in March. Oh, there's a beautiful, beautiful conjunction coming up with Venus and Jupiter, which is going to, or you can already see it happening if you look out the sky to the west. You can see Jupiter and Venus in the sky kind of round about just after dusk, after evening time on a clear night. And they are going to be coming together on the, where are we? They're going to be coming together on the 2nd of March, I think it is. Yep, 2nd of March. And this conjunction is actually going to begin on the 23rd of February. So that's 3 days' time when the conjunction actually starts. Like I said, you can already see them coming together. But they're not going to be exact until the 2nd of March. And that at the same time, Venus is also going to be trine with Black Moon Lilith. And they're going to have Venus and the Venus and Jupiter conjunction is also going to involve Black Moon Lilith in a trine. And Black Moon Lilith is still going to be opposing Pluto. Venus is sextile Sedna, who is also trine Pluto. So it feels as though there's a lot of stuff that is going to come up to the surface. There's a lot of things that are going to be pulled into the light or dragged into the light. Venus and Jupiter, both very kind of truth orientated in a way. Like Venus is bright. She doesn't like the darkness. She doesn't like she's into beauty and things that are pleasant and like good smells and indulgence and that kind of thing on some level. But she's also very she's also very aware, I would say, of the darker side of things as well, because she goes through her own process of becoming the evening star and the morning star. So she also disappears down into the underworld, so she knows like the darker undercurrents that are there as well. So again, I think that with this Black Moon Lilith energy in Leo, we're going to see a lot of information come out around the like celebrities and like those who want to be on the stage, who want to be in the limelight. It's like they might not want to be there quite so much at that particular time. So that would be interesting to see what happens. Saturn conjunct Sun, I think I've already spoken about that. That was February the 6th. It became fully conjunct on the 16th of February and it's going to end on the 27th of February. So still a wee while with this kind of really highlighted Saturn kind of energy, like really restricting, really controlling, really kind of like those that think they're in control are really going to push it. Really going to kind of push the envelope as far as they possibly can. Authority figures. Of course, Mars is also enforcement as well. So that could, yeah, kind of like enforcing people's like censorship and all of that kind of thing could become even more like stronger in people's lives. Like maybe being very careful about what's said and how it's said would be a good idea at this time as well. So I think I'm going to leave it there. There is other things as well. Venus is also going to be sextile Pluto. Yeah, I spoke about that as well, the activating of the cardinal houses and the world stage at this time as well. Again, with this Leo energy. We could see a lot of things come to the surface. And Black Moon Lilith is also in a T-square with the moon's nodes, the north and the south nodes as well. And that's going to be quite long lasting. So again, the past and the future. The T-square aspect, of course, is Black Moon Lilith actually in Leo. So again, that's why I think that there's going to be a lot of dirt, particularly around sexual kind of deviancy coming out at that time as well. Again, that's very much Black Moon Lilith's thing. All the taboos of life, all those things that nobody wants to talk about, are going to be very much on the stage. It really is going to be nowhere to hide. Okay, so the Venus cards, the Lover's Oracle, were the cards that were chosen by dowsing. So it says, don't make decisions based on guilt or what you think you should do, for it is only in being true to yourself that you can be true to others. And that's very fitting as well, especially as Venus is about to move into Aries, the sign of sovereignty and self, and really kind of highlight our individualism and our need to break free from those restrictions. Yeah, I think I'll probably leave it there for now. Pluto will also be going into a T-square with the north nodes as well. But again, that's going to be later in March, or the middle of March, and it will be long lasting because both Pluto and the nodes move very, very slowly. So that is going to have a big effect again, because Pluto will be the focus of the attention for that T-square. So again, it's going to bring up a lot of issues around life, birth, death, power, control, again, toxic poisons, because that's something else that Pluto governs. Or yeah, Pluto does govern toxics and poisons, and of course nuclear as well. So that could become a real kind of issue in the sense of past energy, future energy. Where are we going? Are we going to go, like I said, to the past, to stick with the past energy? And of course the Scorpio energy is the south node energy, the Pluto ruled energy, whereas the Venus energy, where the north node is where we're hoping to get to at this time. So we've got two cards here. One says a blessed heart, and it says if you feel that something is missing, look within and you will find it. What is your heart saying? Your heart is the gateway to your soul, and your soul is the eternal you. Know that you are free, protected and blessed. That's a bit like I was saying earlier about kind of breaking out of those restrictions, kind of allowing ourselves to push past our fears and our doubts about our abilities as well. And so, blessing without borders. In essence, we are living energy flowing through the ocean of human consciousness, spiritual beings moving through cycles of life, birth, death and rebirth. We are all interconnected and in communion with each other. No matter how much physical space appears to separate us, feel the blessed presence of someone you love this moment in your heart. And that is very Piscean energy as well. And a very good card to finish with, because Pisces energy, Neptune energy, there is no boundaries. They have no borders. It has no restrictions. And that's why when Saturn moves into Pisces, things are going to change in a very different way. Anyway, I'm going to finish it there. Say thank you very much to those of you who've come across to listen to what I have to say. This is my intuitive interpretation of what's happening astrologically at this time. So it's just observations really on how I see where we are right now on this planet and the energies that we are all dealing with together. So if you have enjoyed my video, please could you thumbs it up for me, give me a like, because it does help to get other people to see my videos and grow my channel. Like I said, I did have 2 more subscribers, and then when I went and checked earlier, it was like they had gone again. So I'm sure that YouTube just like takes off as many as it lets me have. So a bit of a hidden channel as well, I've been told, so any help there, like sharing it, letting people know that it's there, would be really gratefully received as well. And if you want to make a comment, please could you do that as well, because comments also show that the channel is getting some kind of interaction, which also makes a big difference. And lastly, take really good care of yourselves and anybody else around you, and hopefully I will see you again next time.